If you were born before electric light, sunset was not a pretty background. It was a deadline. The sky started to dim, and somewhere in your chest, a small clock began to tick. Not a clock you could see, a clock made of fading light. You had maybe an hour, maybe less, and everything that had to be done before the dark won had to be done now. Think about that word for a second, deadline. For most of human history, it wasn't a date on a calendar. It was the edge of the day, arriving every single evening, whether you were ready or not. Today, we call it evening. They called it a countdown. Look at what you can do right now.
It can be 2 a.m., the sky outside completely black, and you can flood an entire room with light by moving one finger. No fire, no smoke, no smell, no risk. You can read at midnight, cook at midnight, work, scroll, laugh, argue with strangers, all at an hour when, for almost all of human history, the world simply closed. And you can do it without a single thought. You don't plan for the night. You don't prepare for it. You don't even really notice it arrive. We treat this as normal, but it is one of the strangest things human beings have ever built into daily life. We did not just make light. We canceled the night. But here is the part we forget. That switch on your wall is hiding a problem so old and so heavy that people once built their entire day around avoiding it. Their schedule, their meals, their work, their sleep, all quietly bent around one question we never ask anymore. What happens when the light runs out? So let's take it away. Slowly. Remove the switch on the wall. Remove the lamp on your desk. Remove the glow of your phone. Remove the street light outside your window. Remove the headlights, the shop signs, the distant city glow on the clouds. Remove the soft hum of the refrigerator, keeping your food safe.
Remove the idea that the evening belongs to you, because it didn't. For thousands of years, the hours after sunset belonged to the dark. You were only borrowing the last of the light, and the loan came due every single day. And once you remove all of that, something quietly shifts. The day stops being a flat stretch of time you can fill however you like. It becomes a resource, a short one that drains while you watch. Picture an ordinary house, not a castle, not a ruin, just a normal home, somewhere a few centuries ago. The sun is dropping toward the hills, and suddenly a dozen small problems all become urgent at the same time. The water jug is half empty, and the well is a walk away. The evening meal is not finished. The smallest child is still outside, somewhere past the edge of the yard. The firewood is low, and what's left is damp. The animals are not yet brought in. The door is not yet shut against the cold. None of this is dramatic. There is no monster, no enemy. Just a list. A quiet, ordinary list. But every item on it shares the same hidden rule. Finish before the light is gone. Or do it after, slower, clumsier, and with more risk. And the list does not wait for you. The sun keeps falling at its own pace, indifferent to whether you are ahead or behind. There is no pause button. There is no 5 more minutes. There is only the light you have left, shrinking by the minute. That sounds small, until you remember they could not simply flip a switch and try again. A task left undone at dusk was not postponed by an hour. Often it was postponed until tomorrow, and tomorrow already had its own list waiting. And this is where the ordinary thing becomes strange. The night did not begin at sunset. It began hours earlier, in the choices people made while the sun was still high. This is the mechanism almost nobody thinks about. Light was not just something you saw. Light was time, usable time. And usable time had to be spent wisely because you could not buy more of it after dark. So the day had a hidden shape. The morning was for the work that needed sharp eyes, fine repairs, careful cutting, anything where a mistake was costly. The late afternoon was for closing things down, for gathering, for bringing the outside world in. And the final hour of daylight was the most valuable hour of all, the hour where you paid your debts to the coming dark. Miss that hour, And you did not just lose time. You lost the cheap version of every task. After sunset, everything got more expensive. Harder to do, slower to finish, easier to ruin. A candle did not fix this. A candle was not a vibe. It was stored work, slowly burning in front of your face. Tallow, wax, oil, all of it cost effort, money, or both. Someone had to make it, or trade for it, or render it from animal fat over a fire. You did not light the room. You lit a small circle, and you stayed inside it. And that fuel was always being weighed against tomorrow. Burn it now, and there was less for the next dark evening. So the real question of the evening was never, how do I see everything? It was, what is worth burning fuel for? That single question shaped dinners, conversations, work, and sleep for thousands of years. Now step inside that circle of light with me. A single flame does something we have almost forgotten. It does not fill a room. It carves a small island out of the dark, and everything important has to come to it. The food, the hands, the faces, the work. Whatever you wanted to do in the evening, you did it within arm's reach of that flame, or you did not do it at all. Move 3 steps away, and you are already half blind. The corners of your own home become unknown territory. The room you live in every day turns into a place you cross by memory. So people did not spread out in the evening. They gathered, not because it was cozy for a thumbnail, but because the light was small, the fuel was finite, and there was no reason to waste either. Closeness wasn't sentimental, it was efficient. And the flame was needy. It had to be fed. It had to be shielded from a sudden draft through a gap in the wall. A door opened at the wrong moment, a gust down the chimney, and the room could drop back into black in a heartbeat. Tip that flame over near dry straw or cloth, and your problem stops being poor vision and becomes something far worse, far faster. The same light that helped you could turn on you in seconds. Then there's the cold. Once the sun left, the temperature fell, and the same fire that gave you light was often the only thing standing between your family and a hard, shivering night. One fire, 2 jobs, light and heat, both drawn from the same small store of fuel. And if the wood was wet, both jobs got harder at the same time. More smoke, less warmth, weaker light. Now add the sounds. With your eyes half useless, your ears take over. Every creak outside, every shift of an animal in the dark, every footstep you can't quite place. All of it grows louder in your mind, because you cannot just look and check. The dark did not only take your sight, it changed which of your senses you trusted. And the smallest tasks turn heavy. Finding a dropped needle becomes a search. Checking on a sick child means crossing the room by feel. A trip to the door and back is a small expedition. After dark, even your own home becomes a place you navigate by memory and by touch, counting steps, trailing a hand along a wall, knowing where the table is because you have always known. And think about how early it all started in winter. In the cold months, the dark could arrive in the middle of what we would call the afternoon. The productive day was not just shorter, it was crushed into a narrow window, and everything had to fit inside it. The weird thing is, none of this felt like a crisis to them. It was simply Tuesday. This was the texture of every single evening, repeating, for almost everyone who ever lived. The countdown wasn't an emergency. It was just the shape of being alive. But do not picture these people as helpless. That would be the easy mistake, and the wrong one. They were not fumbling in confusion. They were running a system, and it was a clever one, refined over countless generations. They learned to do the delicate, eye-straining work while the daylight was free, and to save the simple, hands-only tasks for after dark. Repairs you could do by feel, food you could prepare by touch, stories you could tell with no light at all. The evening had its own kind of labor, shaped around what hands could do without eyes. They read the sky the way we read a clock. The color of the horizon, the length of a shadow, the angle of the sun. These told them how much time was left, often more reliably than we'd guess. A glance outside was a glance at the calendar and the clock at once. They protected the fire like the resource it was. In many places, keeping a few embers alive through the night was easier and smarter than building a new flame from nothing the next morning. People learned to bank a fire, to cover it just right so it smoldered low and safe until dawn. A banked fire was tomorrow's breakfast and tomorrow's warmth, already half solved before anyone woke. And they shaped their whole rhythm around the light they actually had.
Sleep often came in pieces, not one long modern block. A first sleep, a quiet waking in the deep of the night, then a second sleep before dawn. Work bent toward the seasons. Long summer evenings used fully, short winter days respected instead of fought. This was not weakness adapting to hardship. This was intelligence shaped by a world that did not forgive waste. Every habit had a reason. Every routine was an answer to a problem we have since paid a machine to solve for us. Now compare that to today. We did not just invent the light bulb. We invented a way to ignore the sun. The evening, which used to be a closing door, became open space. We pushed work into it. We pushed entertainment into it. We pushed our sleep later and later, simply because we could. The natural end of the day was erased, and we filled the gap with everything we now call normal life after dark. And we inherited something those people never had, a day with no natural end. The sun goes down, and for us, almost nothing changes. The deadline they felt in their chest every single evening, we deleted it. We are perhaps the first people in history for whom sunset is purely decorative. But notice what came back in its place. We don't fear the fire going out anymore. Instead, we feel a smaller, stranger version of that old fear. When the phone hits 1%, a quick jolt of, I'm about to lose the thing that keeps my evening running. Different object, same old fear. We didn't escape the anxiety of losing light. We shrank it, smoothed it, and slipped it into our pocket. And there's a quiet cost we rarely connect to any of this. We took away one of the old signals that told people when to slow down. The dark used to tell people when to stop. Now, nothing does. So we keep going, lit up, long past the hour many people before us would have already been asleep. So here is what's actually under that switch on your wall. Underneath it is every evening that was once a countdown. Every family gathered around one flame. Every child called in before the dark. Every fire fed, shielded, and saved through a cold night. Every glance at a fading horizon, measuring how much day was left. Centuries of people solving the same problem you will never have to solve. You can make the dark disappear with one finger.
They could only hold it back, 1 hour, one flame at a time. That doesn't mean their life was better, and it doesn't mean yours is wrong. It only means the night you take for granted was for almost everyone who ever lived the most demanding part of the day. Not the most frightening, the most demanding. So tonight, when you reach over and turn on a light without even looking, don't feel guilty. Just notice it for a second. You're not only switching on a lamp, you're switching off a problem that shaped human life for thousands of years.